Thunder over the South China Sea, sails snapping, black water churning. The year is 1809. The South China Sea is no longer ruled by kings nor emperors nor the might of European fleets. It is ruled by a woman. Imagine 80,000 pirates under her command, more men than some nations, standing armies, ships by the thousands, their red banners like rivers of blood across the horizon. And at the center, one sharp-eyed widow who bent the world's deadliest criminals to her will. Her name, Ching Shih, a name whispered in terror from Macau to Manila. But here's the question that claws at history. How did a brothel worker become the most feared admiral of the pirate age? And why, despite commanding the greatest pirate fleet the world has ever known, did she choose peace when she could have burned empires? That choice still echoes. And what came before it, you'll see. The widow's gamble to candle, lit gambling den, coins rattling, faces in shadow. Ching Shih did not begin her life at sea. She began it in the smoke-filled rooms of a floating brothel in Canton, where whispers carried faster than the tide. Sailors remembered her not just for beauty but for her razor wit. She could cut through a man's bluff the way a blade slices silk. It was there she met Zheng Yi, a pirate captain whose fleet already prowled the coasts of southern China. Contemporary accounts suggest he struck a bargain marriage, yes, but also partnership. She would be more than wife, she would be strategist. But fate gave her only 6 years. In 1807, Zheng Yi drowned in a typhoon. And where most widows would have faded in mourning, Ching Shih made her move. She took her husband's loyal second in command, a fisherman-turned-raider named Cheng Po-tsai, not only as her lieutenant, but as her lover. And with him, she laid claim to the fleet itself. A woman in charge of thousands of pirates. It should have been impossible. But she had a secret weapon: rules. Rules that turned cutthroats into soldiers. Rules that kept order among chaos. Rules that would terrify Europe's greatest admirals. And those rules were written in blood. One slip meant death. Feed the code of red banners, parchment unfurling, brush strokes, waves pounding. Ching Shih issued her pirate code in the winter winds of 1808. Every crewman, every captain, every ship was bound by it. Loot would be registered. None could keep plunder for themselves. Desertion, death, rape, death. Unauthorized villages burned. Death. Her discipline shocked even hardened raiders, who feared her more than the Navy, one sailor supposedly confessed. She had eyes everywhere. But that fear was the glue. With 80,000 pirates under her banner, known as the Red Flag Fleet, she could enforce unity like no other. The pirates became not a mob, but an army, and the coast of China, it bent beneath her sails. Still, rules alone couldn't hold such power. She needed victories, and her first one came against the unlikeliest of enemies. Europe thought her a phantom. She showed them flesh and fire. Could the Europeans strike back hard? Portuguese galleons, cannons wheeling into place, storm clouds. The Portuguese, ruling Macau, could not ignore her raids. Merchants cried ruin. The governor demanded her head. So in 1809, a joint fleet of Portuguese warships and Qing dynasty junks sailed to hunt her down. But Ching Shih had studied them. She knew the Europeans relied on heavy broadsides. She knew the Qing commanders despised their own sailors. And she knew something the Portuguese didn't: her men could fight like soldiers on land as well as sea. In the Battle of the Tiger's Mouth, she turned ambush into legend. Her ships fanned out like a net, trapping the Europeans against shoals. Boarding parties swarmed their decks, blades flashing. The sea turned red. When the smoke cleared, the Portuguese were driven back, the Qing navy humiliated, and Ching Shih untouchable. Yet victory brings danger. With every triumph she painted a target on her fleet. And the more she won, the more enemies rose. Even empires bend when cornered. A woman of iron and smoke, oil lamp flickering, sea mist around a stern face. That eyewitness accounts describe her on deck, dressed simply, voice calm, gaze unflinching even under cannon fire. She did not shout, one captive wrote. She gave commands as though she were speaking to herself. But all obeyed. Her iron calm became her shield. Captains who questioned her found themselves stripped, beaten, sometimes executed. Ching Po-tsai, her partner, carried out her orders without hesitation. Together they built a dynasty that frightened not just fishermen, but emperors. And yet with every punishment, every law, every storm she weathered, she had to ask herself, how long could this last? For no empire tolerates rivals forever, and soon all of China would unite to destroy her. The hunt for the pirate queen had begun. And be Raoul ocean-wide shot, red sails drifting into dusk. If you're gripped by this story so far, drop a like. It helps us chart more forgotten battles of history. And tell me in the comments, would you have survived under Ching Shih's code? And don't forget subscribe, because page 2 will reveal how an entire empire's navy, and Europe's cannons, were humbled by a woman who had started life with nothing. Empires strike together, Qing court scrolls unrolling, mandarins whispering, cannons being loaded. By 1810, the situation was intolerable. The Red Flag Fleet was draining the empire like a wound that wouldn't close. Merchants refused to sail, villages fled inland. The Portuguese governor of Macau wrote of plague upon the sea, commanded by a demon in woman's form. The Qing dynasty, embarrassed and desperate, called for unity. The Portuguese agreed. The British offered their ships. Even Dutch captains pledged support. This was no longer a pirate hunt, this was a crusade. And at the center of that crusade, one woman, standing on the deck of her flagship with the wind snapping her hair like a whip. Empires against a widow, armadas against a code. The math should have been simple. But Ching Shih didn't play by numbers, she played by fear. She was about to turn the hunters into prey. The battle of human narrow strait, water rushing like a funnel, sails crammed tight. The chosen battlefield was the Pearl River estuary near human. Narrow waters, treacherous shoals. European ships believed they could choke the pirates here, trap them, annihilate them. But Ching Shih saw opportunity. The Red Flag fleet drew the enemy deep into the strait, baiting them with smaller vessels. Once the Europeans entered, Ching Shih's larger junks sealed the exit. Eyewitnesses speak of cannon smoke so thick it turned day to night. Red banners vanished, then reappeared drifting like phantoms in fog. Boarding parties leaped, muskets firing point blank. For every pirate ship lost, 2 Qing junks were sunk. For every canard, 3 pirates swarmed the decks. The estuary itself seemed to side with Ching Shih, swallowing foreign hulls into hidden sandbars. And when the battle ended, the empires had to retreat, humiliated, broken, and stunned. Her victory was so complete, it forced even her enemies to admire her. A triumph breeds a deadlier enemy time. Heat the weight of power, quiet cabin, maps scattered, candlelight flickering. With victory came spoils. With spoils came danger. 80,000 mouths to feed, thousands of ships to repair, endless demands for loot. Villages bled dry. Coastal provinces begged for relief, and the pirates themselves, hungry for more. Captains whispered of striking Manila, even India. Some dreamed of toppling dynasties. But Ching Shih understood the tide. She had stretched the rope to its breaking point. Too many enemies, too many battles. The moment she lost even one major clash, her empire would crumble. In private, she began to plan something unthinkable: surrender. Not defeat, not capture. Surrender on her terms. But how could a pirate queen bow without breaking? The gambler's last hand, Qing officials in silk robes, pirate envoys kneeling, jade seals. In April 1810, Ching Shih shocked the world. She marched, unarmed, into Canton. By her side was Ching Po-tsai, carrying a petition. Her terms were astonishing: amnesty for her men, the right to keep their plunder, and freedom to walk away unpunished. The Qing court hesitated, a pirate asking for peace, but they feared her more than they hated her. What if she changed her mind? What if the Red Flag fleet rose again? So they agreed. 80,000 pirates laid down their arms and walked away free. Ching Shih retired wealthy, untouchable, and alive. She would open a gambling house, raise children, and die in her bed at age 69. No gallows, no chains, no forgotten grave. A pirate queen who bent empires and won. But her legend did not fade. It grew darker with time. That the ghost of the South China Sea, fog over the ocean, sails creaking, ghostly silhouettes. For decades after, fishermen swore they saw her red banners flicker on the horizon. Tales spread of her second fleet, waiting in the mists, ready to punish the greedy. In Europe, her name became myth, proof of the East's unfathomable dangers. But historians digging centuries later find something subtler: her code, her discipline, her ruthless logic. In her hands, piracy became empire. In her retreat, piracy became legend. And her question, the same that haunts us now, remains: why surrender when she could have ruled? Was it fear? Was it foresight? Or was it the truest victory, knowing when to stop? The answer lies in the silence she left behind. If you're still watching, smash that like button. It tells me you want more untold pirate stories. And comment below, do you think surrender was her greatest victory, or her greatest betrayal? We'll close the tale: the aftershocks of her empire, how her lieutenants carried on her legacy, and why modern navies still study her tactic. After the storm, empty harbors, broken ropes, seagulls circling, the Red Flag fleet dissolved like mist. Ships that once blotted out the sun now rotted at anchor. Men who had lived by the sword walked into villages with nothing but scars. Yet the memory of their discipline, Ching Shih's code, lingered. A king official wrote, "They disbanded as if an army dismissed, not pirates undone." For the empire, this was both victory and humiliation. Victory, because the plague of the sea was gone. Humiliation, because they had not crushed her, she had walked away. And that fact changed everything. As she rewrote the ending of piracy itself, the echoes in the West, European naval charts, admirals in candlelit war rooms. When word reached Europe, captains laughed in disbelief. A pirate queen, a fleet larger than the Royal Navy. It sounded like drunken tavern talk. But slowly reports confirmed it. European navies began studying her maneuvers. The idea of treating piracy not as chaos but as military order was shocking. To some it was terrifying. British officers noted how she had used narrow waters to outflank heavier ships. Tactics echoed later in the Napoleonic Wars. Portuguese traders admitted they feared her more than typhoons. She had taken a world of scattered rogues and built an empire that forced the West to bow its head. But her most dangerous weapon wasn't ships. It was memory. Heed the woman behind the banner, intimate oil, painting shot, a calm face lit by firelight. It's easy to remember her as a symbol, the pirate queen, the terror of the seas. But eyewitness fragments give us glimpses of the woman beneath. One servant claimed she loved quiet music, playing a lute late at night. Another remembered her laughter, not cruel, but rare, like a locked chest open once in a lifetime. She was ruthless, yes, but she was also human, and perhaps that humanity guided her final act. A life ended not in chains but in peace. Maybe surrender wasn't weakness, maybe it was the boldest gamble of all. She bet her story would outlast empires. The fate of Ching Po-tsai, her cave along a rocky coast, waves echoing inside like a heartbeat. What of her second in command, Ching Po-tsai? Legends claim he hid treasure in limestone caves along the Guangdong coast. To this day, villagers whisper of secret tunnels where gold is buried under saltwater stone. But records say otherwise. He accepted amnesty like his queen. He joined the Qing Navy, irony so sharp it cut like a blade. The pirate who once defied the empire became its soldier, even its officer. Some accounts claim he lived to old age, never punished for the years of fire. Or is this betrayal, or simply survival? Perhaps he learned the same truth as Ching Shih, that the sea always wins, and men who try to own it eventually drown. hope, but the legend of their treasure still draws hunters today. The lost generals of the Red Fleet, fragmented sails, lonely graves by the shore, incense smoke. Not all of her captains surrendered gracefully. Some fled into exile, raiding in smaller bands until the Qing hunted them down. Others resisted surrender and were executed. Their names are scattered like broken shells in forgotten archives. One fragment mentions a captain who refused to bow and fought until every last man on his junk was dead. Another speaks of a woman commander, possibly inspired by Ching Shih, who tried to raise a rival fleet but vanished in a storm. These ghosts remind us her empire ended without a monument. It crumbled in silence, its soldiers swallowed by the tide of history. But silence can be louder than victory. Key lessons written in salt chalkboard overlay of naval maps, storm waves colliding. Why does Ching Shih matter today? Because she broke every rule. Pirates were supposed to be men. She was a woman. Pirates were supposed to be anarchic. She enforced order. Pirates were supposed to die violently. She died in peace. Even modern navies study her. Her use of discipline codes and morale is taught as an example of controlling chaos. Her ability to negotiate surrender on her own terms, without firing a shot, is cited as psychological warfare. Most importantly, she proved something few dared imagine, that power could belong to those written off by society. A brothel worker, a widow, a woman who out-thought empires. And in that, her shadow is still with us. The quiet end, a dim gambling house, dice rolling across a wooden table. In her final years, Ching Shih lived quietly in Canton. She ran a gambling house. Locals described her as polite but stern, wealthy but never ostentatious. She died in 1844, age 69. No chains, no gallows, no forgotten shallow grave. Her funeral was modest, no pirate banners flew. But perhaps that was the point. She had written her story not in marble but in fear and fire. The world had already carved her legend. She needed no tombstone. And legends, unlike empires, never die. Wide ocean shot fading into black, red sail dissolving into mist. So when you hear tales of pirate kings, remember this: the greatest pirate ruler in history was neither king nor man. She was Ching Shih, and she walked away undefeated. If this story shook your idea of piracy, subscribe now. Next time we'll uncover another battle history tried to bury. And trust me, you won't want to miss it. And before you go, drop a like if you felt the sea spray on your face, and tell me in the comments, was Ching Shih a genius or a tyrant in silk?